Don't talk to me or my son ever again. Wait, there's an even smaller one. There's like a teenager over here. Wait, can I attack the chicken? Oh, I'm dead. Hello and welcome. My name is Eric and my channel's content mainly consists of the proper MMORPG, Runescape. I have played a handful of MMOs during the years, but I never really gave some of them a proper chance, including The Elder Scrolls Online. The game was published by Bethesda back in 2014, and the first time I tried The Elder Scrolls Online was right after they transitioned from a monthly subscription into a buy-to-play model with microtransactions in 2015. Back in 2015, this game didn't hook me whatsoever, but I can tell you that this game has come a long way from its initial launch. In this video, I'm going to give you guys my first impressions of the game in 2020, so when you're ready, grab your cup of tea, sit back, relax, and enjoy. So the first thing I had to do was download this game, and it took me 5 or 6 hours. It's actually a huge download. Now, as you can see, that's my only class from back in 2015, a level 8 Dragon Knight. So of course, I decided to create a new character. Now you can pick from 3 different alliances, 10 different races, and 6 different classes. However, if you don't have any DLC, you only have access to 4 different classes, which is a shame. But as I like magic, I decided to go with a sorcerer because, you know, who doesn't want to be a wizard or sorceress? Now, of course, with an MMO or a game from the Elder Scrolls series, you expect that you can make a decent or awful looking character. Now, I decided to go with something normal this time instead of making some abomination of a character because, you know, I wanted to be normal for once instead of making a purple-haired, weird-looking character just like in Oblivion, so I made a regular-looking Wood Elf sorceress. Now, I have no clue why, but I started in the Vvardenfell or Morrowind section of the Elder Scrolls Online. I believe 1 or 2 days after when I logged in, I spawned somewhere completely else for... I still don't know why. Anyways, it was really cool to see how similar Morrowind in this game looked compared to the original game, which was just cool to see because this was now a MMO instead of a single-player game. Yo, hold up a second. Hold up a second. This is literally the Morrowind section of this game. I just realized this is Morrowind. I also quickly realized that the visuals of this game were absolutely gorgeous. From the effects, to the textures, to the lighting, to the environment, just miles and miles better when compared to RuneScape 3 or other MMOs like World of Warcraft. I also became fairly interested in the dragon chickens, but we all know how that ended. Now, I initially became interested in this game by looking at some PvE and PvP videos on YouTube. And luckily for me, the combat was pretty satisfying. Even though at the start of the game, I was simply running around, jumping around, spamming things, and looking like an absolute idiot. That changed over time though. Don't worry. What did surprise me, however, is the lore in the Elder Scrolls Online. For whatever reason, I expected the game to be either PvP or PvE focused, judging by the videos I watched. However, quests were actually quite in-depth and could be very interesting if you just didn't skip through the dialogue midway through the quest, which I did do a couple of times, and then I just completely lost what the quest was about, or where I had to go, and then I just looked at my map and went there. But these quests in this game are actually better than other MMOs. Most of the time it's kill this, grab that. But the quests in the Elder Scrolls Online had some more depth. Sure, you still had those quests where you go to an area, kill a certain thing, or talk to an NPC, then go to another area, repeat, and so on. But in the Elder Scrolls Online, quests can be more than that. They can even have puzzles, which kind of reminded me a little bit of RuneScape. So if you're into lore, this is probably a very interesting game for you to check out. However, I personally, especially in online games, do not like stories, and I'm not necessarily interested in quests and lore. If I wanted to play a game with a story, I'd go ahead and play a single-player game with a nice campaign, like Far Cry 3 or Skyrim, and not have people run around in front of you in the instance. It just kills the vibe. Now, before I go into things I don't like about the game, or things just annoy me about this game, let's first talk about the great stuff: combat, PvP and PvE. But before I do, I just want to say I appreciate the size of this game. The map, even without DLCs, is absolutely enormous. For that reason, the game is also very overwhelming because there's a lot of content in this game. You can even cook things, you have different skills, you can craft things, and it's just very overwhelming for a new player. Now, after a few hours, combat quests, the map, waypoints, and so on will all be clear, but grouping up dungeons, world bosses, random lightning coming down, it's just a little vague and confusing. I like the fact that there aren't a million skills in this game. There's a set few you can level up by using the actual skills and skill type. You have skills from your race, you have skills from the mage and warrior guild, you have armor skills, different weapon skills. So there's a bunch to choose from, and there's probably a lot of build variety. Apparently there's also a way of using a sword and shield as a sorcerer and using a two-handed weapon opposed to using a staff, which I would think is weird because a sorcerer, magic, staff, but apparently you can use a sword as well, or even a bow, which is even more surprising. And if you keep using a skill, you can eventually morph it into a better version of the skill that gives it another passive or changes the effect a little bit. You also have ultimate abilities which charge up through attacks. All in all, it's very interesting, and I assume if you played this game a lot and you try the different classes, there's a lot of replayability in this game and interesting and unique combat. Now at level 10 you unlock a mount or a free mount, which is a horse. Now sadly I cannot fight from the mount. Maybe it's a skill you have to learn through the town or something, but as far as I'm aware you're not able to fight on your mount. It's simply for moving around and fashion purposes. Now in Elder Scrolls Online you only have access to 5 abilities on your action bar, your quick heal option, and your ultimate ability. At level 15 you unlock your second weapon style, which you can switch to mid-combat for another 5 abilities and another ultimate ability. You can see it as a sort of preset. This in turn means you have to be somewhat selective with your weapon style and abilities on your action bar. Now a high level player suggested to me if I wanted to be a damage class I would have to switch from a damage staff to a healing staff for my secondary weapon. And that does make sense because then you would be able to heal yourself and then just go back to dealing a lot of damage. Although I don't exactly know how that works just yet. I've only played 7 or 8 hours, so bear with me. Now in terms of combat in this game, there's a lot of options. You have dungeons, which are like World of Warcraft raids I believe. You have world events and world bosses. I've only done 2 of those 3. You also have random caves you find throughout the world that sometimes also have a boss. These world events are really interesting because when they do occur, a bunch of players come together to fight off the enemies with you, even though you're not in a party. And that's when group PvE content or PvM content starts sparkling. Now as for dungeons, I did a public dungeon at first because I just simply couldn't find a dungeon to join through the queuing system of the game. I waited like 10 minutes and I still couldn't find a game. So I went to a public dungeon which you can enter whenever, and players can also just go in there without being in a group. So it's not like you do it with a select team. You just go in, and if there's other players that happen to be there, you'll see them and they can help you or annoy you by dragging away enemies or pulling more enemies towards you, which ends up getting you killed. Now these dungeons aren't only about killing monsters, they also have some questy aspects inside, as you have to talk to an NPC and they might want you to retrieve an item, in this case being journal pages and journals. That's just something I noticed. Also, these dungeons are insanely good experience. Quests in this game didn't really get me up fast, but a dungeon just leveled up my character extremely quickly in comparison for the time it took me to complete one dungeon. Also, just look at those visuals. I genuinely like the graphics of this game so much. They clearly aren't the best or anything, but they just look nice for an MMORPG. Now, because finding a group through the matchmaking system took so long, I decided to simply ask in chat if anyone was interested in running dungeons with me. I did make it very clear that I was a low-level player and a new player to the game. Now, I was very surprised at the fact that a level 800 player was willing to do a dungeon with me and he wasn't one-shotting everything. There were also players of different levels in my group, and for whatever reason, player level didn't matter. I felt like I was doing the exact same amount of damage as a level 80 player in my team, despite them being almost 5 times my level. The best thing about these dungeons is that they are presented to you at an early stage in the game. The first dungeons are unlocked at level 10. Compared to RuneScape, 5 hours of gameplay is nothing. In RuneScape, it takes you hundreds of hours to get ready for elite dungeons or raids. Now, PvP in this game is also fun, but I have no clue what I'm doing, and I assume there's some kind of learning curve. Now, for whatever reason, the person of another race couldn't invite me to Siege PvP, which is some kind of eternal war on a large-scale map, which is what initially interested me to try PvP in this game. For whatever reason, I just couldn't go with him into matchmaking, and that was a shame, so I did Battlegrounds instead. Now, Battlegrounds is something you start without a friend because you can't join the matchmaking with another player in your group, and once you join, you'll have 3 other players in your team versus 2 other teams of 4 players, so 4v4v4, you have capture the flag games, you have deathmatch, you have domination, so, you have a variety of game modes, and it is pretty fun. I'm just not very good at it yet. I assume gear also is an important factor for PvP in this game, but I'm not entirely sure. So throughout this video, I've mentioned a bunch of positive things about The Elder Scrolls Online from a new player's perspective. All in all, I think The Elder Scrolls Online is a very good value as a base game. You can buy the game for about 10 to 20 euros right now, which is not really that much, and you don't need to pay a monthly subscription. There is, however, a monthly subscription called ESO Plus, which you can buy to support the game, and you'll get some bonuses, but it is not required to play the game. As for cons, I don't think this game is very new player friendly. Even with the tutorial, this game is super expansive and there's a lot of things that the tutorial doesn't tell you anything about. And just like RuneScape is something you need to learn for YouTube videos and guides. As for performance, I definitely noticed the random FPS drops in cities and with a lot of players inside an area. Now, this game isn't very co-op friendly, and that's the reason I initially left this game back in 2015, because outside of dungeons, there's no incentive to party up with someone if you're doing certain quests. Something else that really annoyed me is how easily you can attack innocents in this game. If you accidentally left-click inside the city and hit a citizen or a guard, you'll immediately be attacked by guards and killed. After some research, I found out that you can turn off the accidental attack of innocents in your settings. Why this isn't standard for new players is a mystery to me. For an MMO with so many mount choices, I'm surprised that there's no such thing as mounted combat, and horses and other mounts are only there for fashion and movement purposes. And the game really doesn't feel immersive with the amount of players running around. However, it is good to see that this game is still super popular even though it's over 5 years old. And lastly, I'm not a fan of the paid DLC because they already have cosmetics and other things in their crown shop, and they have ESO Plus as a subscription model. Why would they need paid DLC as well? Not really a fan of that, just it's a personal thing. And with that being said, those were my first impressions of The Elder Scrolls Online as a RuneScape player. Overall, I'm pleasantly surprised how much more polished the game is and feels compared to when it launched originally. And perhaps if I enjoy it enough long term, I'll be able to create an in-depth review on this game someday. But until then, I hope you guys enjoyed, and if you did, feel free to leave a like and comment down below, and I'll catch you guys in the next video. Peace.